In this demo, we're going to show you how you can use Amazon SageMaker Ground Truth to label images, then use those labeled images to train an Amazon recognition model. The images we're going to have labeled are images of slugs and snails. Let's start by creating a new labeling job. The first thing we need to do is identify where the images are stored we want to have labeled. I've already uploaded these images to an S3 bucket. For Ground Truth to process the images, we need to add them to a manifest file. A manifest file is simply a file that contains a list of all the images in the correct format. If our images are already stored in S3, we can create a manifest by clicking the Create Manifest File. We need to feed in the location of the images in S3, then click Create. The images from the S3 bucket are added to a manifest. To use it, we need to click the Use This Manifest. Now we have the manifest identified, let's add some more info. Output location is where the labeled dataset will be stored. We need to make sure the service has permissions by selecting the correct IAM role. Next up is to decide if we're going to label the whole dataset or not. We're not going to label the whole dataset, just a sample, which we will use 20%. We might want to do this to test the effectiveness of the job before creating a large job. We're doing it because it's a demo. We have to identify the type of labeling job we want. In our demo, we want to have bounding boxes around the images. Now we can decide who can do the work. We have three choices. Mechanical Turk creates a job that is published to the Mechanical Turk marketplace. The job details and images will be visible to the contractors who take the job. Private allows you to create your own list of people who can perform the labeling. This is useful if you have the staff or the images are sensitive. Finally, there is Vendor Managed, which allows you to use a third-party vendor to perform the labeling. We're going to use Mechanical Turk, and based upon the complexity of the task we're asking them to perform, we can select pricing. We need to confirm this dataset does not contain adult content and accept the confirmation about using Mechanical Turk. Mechanical Turk is going to provide a UI for labelers. We need to ensure we put the instructions in the UI that can be followed by the contractor. You should include examples of good and bad labeling so the contractor can see what is expected. The better the instructions, the more likely the contractor will perform the task correctly. We can see what the tool looks like by clicking Preview. This is the labeling tool that Mechanical Turk workers will see. We can see how instructions are displayed and even draw a bounding box to test. There are tools to undo, zoom in, etc. And once we're done testing, we can close the window. Now that we've defined the job, let's start it. Here's our job in progress. It takes some time for this to complete as the job needs to be published and humans need to complete the work. So let's wait a bit and come back later. Here are the results of the job. You can see the information about the job along with the labeled images. You might notice that images may not be labeled correctly. This might be a good time to update the instructions and rerun the job, or we can fix them later. Let's use this labeled dataset to train Amazon recognition. This is Amazon recognition custom labels. We have to create a new project. We need to add a dataset for training and test. We will import our images from Ground Truth. We need to give our dataset a name. We can enter the path to the output manifest, which we can grab from the Ground Truth job. To make sure recognition has the right permissions to the bucket, we can copy the bucket policy from this screen. To this S3 bucket policy. Now we can view the labeled images. We can also fix and tweak any of the labeling. You can see this image has been incorrectly labeled. It has been labeled for both a slug and a snail. Let's fix that. I went ahead and fixed the other images off camera. Now let's figure out the test set. We're going to use some images to train the model, but we will hold some back for testing. If we already have the training test split, we can choose that. Otherwise, we can select Split Training Set, which is going to split the data set into 80% for training and 20% for testing. Now recognition is going to train the model, and we need to wait for it to complete. It doesn't take very long. Once the model training is complete, the test data is used to calculate some metrics. Precision is the proportion of results that were correctly identified in the training set. You can see for slug it's 95% and snail is 87%. Recall is the percent of positive identifications. You can see this is 65% for both, not terribly great. Assumed threshold was the probability used to positively identify the image for a slug or snail, and the F1 score combines the recall and precision together. Here you can view the results of the test. Many images have false positives. To improve the results, we might want to increase the number of training images and make sure they are correctly labeled. To host the model, we need an application. There's a test application available in GitHub that you can deploy to your AWS account and use. This is the UI to perform the prediction. We need to upload an image. And if the model detects a slug or a snail, the confidence score is returned along with the bounding box coordinates, which we can use to draw a box. In this demo, you saw how you can use Amazon SageMaker Ground Truth to create a job to label images using Mechanical Turk. You then saw how to use the results of that training job to create an Amazon Recognition custom labels job. Finally, you saw how you can use the sample app to test the predictions. That's it for this demo.